Omatola's hands trembled as she fumbled with her apartment keys, her other hand cradling the bottom of her 7-month belly. Charleston's August heat clung to her skin, and all she wanted was to kick off her shoes and sleep without the baby using her ribs as a kickboxing practice dummy. The door swung open before her key turned. Her breath caught. The lock hadn't been engaged. She pushed the door wider, her heart hammering against her chest wall. The living room looked wrong. Her thrift store furniture had been rearranged with surgical precision, and sitting in her grandmother's armchair, the one piece she'd brought from Atlanta, was a man who shouldn't exist outside her nightmares, Yoon In-tak. 6 months hadn't dulled the sharp edges of his face or softened the calculating darkness in his eyes. He wore all black, expensive, tailored, lethal. Korean characters curved up the left side of his neck in bold brushstrokes, disappearing beneath his collar. Behind him, 3 men in dark suits blocked every exit. Her apartment had become a cage. "You ran." In-tak's voice cut through the silence, smooth and cold as a blade on ice. "From me. From us. From my child." Omatola's hand flew to her belly. "Get out! I don't know how you found me, but you need to leave. Now." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Your medical records were surprisingly easy to access. Charleston has only 4 obstetricians who specialize in high-risk pregnancies." The casual violation sent ice down her spine. "This baby isn't yours to claim." She stepped further inside, refusing to be cornered. "You don't get to storm into my life." "Then tell me I'm wrong." In-tak stood in one fluid motion, and suddenly the space between them felt suffocating. He moved like a predator, each step deliberate. The Korean characters on his neck shifted with his movement, and she remembered tracing those symbols in the darkness of a Seoul hotel room. "Immovable heart," he'd whispered against her bare shoulder. "It means I don't break." He stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and woody that made her pulse spike traitorously. Close enough to see the sleeplessness shadowing his eyes. "Tell me that child isn't mine," he continued, his voice dropping to something raw, "and I'll leave." The lie formed on her tongue, but the baby kicked hard against her palm, the movement visible through her thin dress. In-tak's eyes tracked downward. Something flickered across his face, possession so naked, it stole her breath. 6 months, she whispered. 6 months I've been free of you." "Free?" His jaw clenched. "I spent 6 months wondering if you were alive, if you were safe. Do you have any idea what it does to a man like me to not know, to not be able to protect what's mine? I'm not yours. That child is." Now here's where everything Omatola thought she knew about control shattered, because In-tak didn't just want the baby, he wanted her to surrender completely. So what now? She forced herself to meet his eyes. "You found me. What do you want?" In-tak moved closer. One step, the air thickened. Another step. Her back hit the wall, and suddenly he was right there, his body heat radiating against her swollen belly, his hand rising to brace beside her head. "Marry me." Omatola laughed, sharp, borderline hysterical. "You can't just marry me," he repeated, command wrapped in silk, "or I take the baby." The temperature dropped 10 degrees. "I have the resources, the lawyers." His voice remained perfectly calm. "I can prove you're unfit, a single mother who fled the country, hiding my child. I will bury you in legal warfare until you have nothing, no custody, no child." Her chest constricted so tight she couldn't breathe. "You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice." His hand cupped her face with devastating gentleness. His thumb traced her cheekbone, and her traitorous body leaned into the touch, craving more contact even as her mind screamed danger. Heat bloomed where his skin met hers, spreading down her neck. "Marry me. Let me protect you both. Or," his eyes went molten, "or I take what's mine by force." The baby kicked. In-tak's hand slid down to cover her belly, his palm hot through the thin fabric. Their fingers overlapped, and electricity shot up her arm. She could feel his breath on her lips, could see his pulse jumping in his throat above those Korean characters. "Why?" Her voice broke. One night doesn't... You think I haven't tried to forget you? His control fractured. His other hand left the wall, fingers threading into her hair at the nape of her neck, tilting her face up. The grip sent shivers cascading down her spine. Every woman after you was wrong. You got under my skin, Omatola. His forehead touched hers. His thumb stroked the sensitive skin behind her ear, a touch so intimate her knees weakened. I can't lose you again, he whispered against her mouth, not quite kissing her, but close enough that she could taste the words. So yes, I'm threatening you. Tell me you feel nothing. But she couldn't, because her body was betraying her. Leaning into his heat, her free hand fisting in his expensive shirt, her breathing gone shallow and desperate. 6 months, she gasped. After the baby's born, then we divorce. Triumph flashed in his eyes. 6 months, he agreed, his mouth hovering over hers, torturously close. But I should warn you. His hand tightened in her hair, angling her head exactly where he wanted it. I'm very good at changing people's minds. And if you're wondering whether Omatola stands a chance against a man who's spent 6 months obsessing over her, hit that subscribe button right now, because this is just the beginning of how far Intac will go to keep what's his. His lips claimed hers, and it wasn't gentle. It was possession and demand, and 6 months of obsession poured into one devastating kiss. His hand on her belly pulled her closer, as close as her pregnant body allowed, and she melted into him, opening for him, her fingers clutching his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. When he finally pulled back, his thumb traced her swollen bottom lip. 3 weeks, he murmured, his voice gone rough. We marry in Seoul in 3 weeks. My people will handle everything. Omatola's mind spun, her body still burning from his touch, from the promise in his kiss. She'd just agreed to marry her obsession, but as Intac's hand splayed possessively across her belly and his mouth curved into a smile that was pure predator, she realized the real question wasn't whether she'd survive him. It was whether she'd ever wanted to escape at all. The private jet to Seoul felt like a gilded prison. Omatola pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching Charleston disappear beneath the clouds. 3 weeks. Intac had given her 3 weeks to settle her affairs, which really meant 3 weeks for his people to dismantle her entire life and pack it into cargo holds bound for South Korea. Her apartment lease, terminated. Her job, resigned with suspicious severance. Her friends, fed a carefully crafted story about a sudden marriage, all of it orchestrated by a man who sat 15 feet away, working on his laptop like he hadn't just stolen her entire existence. Intac hadn't touched her since that kiss. He'd been nothing but careful, ensuring she had the best prenatal care, remembering she hated ginger tea, having her grandmother's armchair shipped to Seoul. This version of him was harder to resist than the monster who'd threatened to take her baby. You should eat something. His voice cut through her thoughts. The flight attendant said you refused lunch. Omatola didn't turn from the window. I'm not hungry. The baby is fine. She finally looked at him and immediately regretted it. He'd rolled up his shirt sleeves. The Korean characters on his neck disappeared into his collar, but she could see other ink now, symbols running down his left forearm. You don't get to pretend you care when you blackmailed me onto this plane. I never pretended anything. Intac closed his laptop, then moved toward her, settling into the seat directly across. His knees almost touched hers. I don't apologize for wanting what's mine. Her pulse kicked up. I'm not. You are. His eyes locked on hers. And the sooner you accept that, the easier this becomes. The baby kicked hard. Intac's gaze dropped to her belly, something vulnerable flashing across his features. May I? He gestured to her stomach. She should say no, should maintain distance. Okay. Intac knelt between the seats, and suddenly she was looking down at one of Seoul's most dangerous men on his knees before her. His hand hovered over her belly, waiting. When she nodded, his palm settled, warm against the swell of their child. The baby kicked directly into his hand. Intac's breath shuddered out, his fingers spreading wider. Strong, he murmured. His thumb stroked slow circles, and heat bloomed under his touch. How does it feel? Carrying life? Terrifying. Amazing. Like I'm never alone anymore. You're not. His other hand settled on her thigh, just above her knee, possessive. The heat of his palm burned through her dress. You'll never be alone again. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, her throat went tight. Your family, she said, needing to break whatever spell was weaving between them. What if they hate me? I don't speak Korean. I don't know the customs. I'm a pregnant Black American walking into one of Seoul's most powerful families. Then they'll learn to accept it. Intak's hand slid higher up her thigh, fingers trailing fire. You don't bow to anyone. Not to them. Not to Seoul society. You're mine, which means you're untouchable. Her breathing went shallow. I don't know how to be what they'll expect. Good. His grip tightened on her thigh, possessive enough to make her gasp. I don't want you to be what they expect. He leaned closer, his lips nearly brushing her ear. Let them whisper. Let them judge. Every time they look at you, they'll remember that I chose you over everything they tried to arrange for me. The raw possession in his voice liquefied her spine. But here's what Omatola was about to discover. Intak's family wasn't just going to whisper. They were going to wage war. 4 hours until we land, Intak continued against her ear, his breath hot on her neck. 4 hours until you meet my mother, who will smile while calculating exactly how to separate us. My brother, who will test your strength. My father's associates, who will wonder if an American carries any useful connections. His hand slid from her thigh to her lower back, pulling her forward until they were impossibly close. Can you handle that? I survived you threatening to take my baby. Her voice came out breathier than intended. I think I can handle your family. His laugh was dark, approving. There's my fighter. His fingers traced up her spine, leaving lightning in their wake. But you need to understand. They'll smile to your face while sharpening knives for your back. They'll compliment your dress while calculating its cost. They'll ask about your family while cataloging every gap in your pedigree. Then why take me there? Because you're carrying my child. Because... His hand fisted in her hair, tilting her head back to meet his burning gaze. I want them to see exactly what I claimed. I want every man who thought he had a chance at alliance through marriage to know they never stood a chance. Her heart hammered against her ribs. I'm not a trophy. No. His thumb traced her racing pulse at her throat. You're the obsession. The thing I'd burn my entire empire for. His lips hovered, over hers, not quite touching. That terrifies them more than any trophy ever could. The space between them crackled with heat. Omatola's fingers curled into his shirt, torn between pulling him closer and pushing him away. What if I can't do this? The confession escaped before she could stop it. What if I'm not strong enough for your world? Then I'll burn it down and build you a new one. Simple. Absolute insane. He released her slowly, returning to his seat with that infuriating control, leaving her flushed and aching. 4 hours until Seoul. 4 hours until she discovered whether she could survive being the weakness of a man who'd never had one before. And as Intak's eyes promised things that made her body burn, Omatola realized the real danger wasn't his family's judgment. It was how badly she wanted to prove she belonged at his side. The Yoon family estate in Hanamdong made Omatola's entire Charleston apartment building look like a garden shed. Black iron gates opened to reveal a sprawling compound, traditional Korean architecture fused with modern glass and steel, surrounded by meticulously maintained gardens. Security personnel dotted the perimeter like living statues. Intak's hand settled possessively on her lower back as they exited the car. Breathe, he murmured against her ear, his lips brushing her skin. They can smell fear. Comforting, she muttered, but straightened her spine. Her empire waist dress hugged her pregnant belly in soft cream fabric. She'd refused the elaborate jewelry they'd tried to drape on her, keeping only simple gold hoops her grandmother had given her. If Intak's family was going to judge her, they'd judge her, not some manufactured version. The main house doors opened before they reached them. A woman emerged, 50s, elegant in a way that looked effortless but probably took hours. Her charcoal hanbok was traditional, but cut with modern lines. Her eyes, the same calculating darkness as Intak's, assessed Omotola in 3 seconds flat. "Iyama," Intak said. Then, in English, "This is Omotola Davis. Omotola, my mother, Yoon Ji-hee." Ji-hee's smile was polite, perfect, and cold enough to frost glass. "Miss Davis, welcome." Her English carried barely an accent. "Congratulations are in order, both for the wedding and the child." The way she said "the child," like it was an acquisition rather than a grandchild, set Omotola's teeth on edge. "Mrs. Yoon." Omotola extended her hand, refusing to bow when she didn't know the proper depth. "Thank you for your hospitality." Ji-hai's eyes flickered before she took Omotola's hand in a brief, cool grip. "Come inside. You must be exhausted. Intak, your brother is waiting in your father's study. I'll take Omotola to our rooms first." "Nonsense!" Ji-hai's smile sharpened. "Miss Davis should rest. I'll have staff show her upstairs while you attend to business. Family matters require privacy." The dismissal was smooth and absolute. Intak's hand tightened on Omotola's back, his body going rigid. Omotola is family. She will be, after the wedding. Steel underlined every pleasant word. 3 days is hardly long enough to plan properly, but we'll make do. Now go. Your brother has been waiting. Omotola realized this was a test. Would she cling to Intak, or could she handle herself? "Go," Omotola said quietly, meeting Ji-hai's eyes. "I'm perfectly capable of finding a bedroom." Something flickered in Intak's expression, concern and pride warring. He leaned down, his lips brushing her temple in pure claiming, his hand sliding around to splay across her belly. "East wing, 3rd floor. If anyone gives you trouble..." His fingers pressed possessively against her stomach. "Call me immediately." The heat of his palm lingered even after he disappeared inside. "Well?" Ji-hai turned fully to Omotola. "Shall we?" The walk through the estate was psychological warfare. Ji-hai pointed out family heirlooms worth more than Omotola's medical school debt. She mentioned distinguished wedding guests, politicians, magnates, people whose names appeared in international news. She asked polite questions about Omotola's family, each one highlighting exactly how different their worlds were. "And your parents?" Ji-hee inquired as they climbed a sweeping staircase. "Will they attend? My mother passed when I was 12. Cancer." Omotola kept her voice steady. "My father remarried. We're not close." "I see." Ji-hai's expression softened microscopically, the first genuine emotion. "Loss is difficult. I lost my own mother young. It shapes us, makes us either weak or unbreakable. Another test. It taught me I only have myself to rely on," Omotola said. "Good." Ji-hai stopped outside an ornate door. "Because that's the truth, Miss Davis. In this family, in this world, you have only yourself. My son may be obsessed with you now, but obsession fades. Money doesn't. Power doesn't." There it was, the real warning. "You think I'm here for his money?" Omotola said flatly. "I think you're here because you're carrying his child and he gave you no choice." Ji-hai's eyes were sharp, knowing. "I'm not a fool. I know my son. I know how he operates. The question is, are you here to survive him, or are you stupid enough to love him?" The bluntness stole Omotola's breath. "Because if you love him," Ji-hai continued, her voice dropping, "you'll destroy each other. Intak doesn't do anything halfway. Not business, not violence, not love. He'll consume you until there's nothing left." Omotola's hand moved to her belly. "And if I don't love him?" "Then you might survive with your soul intact." Ji-hai opened the door, revealing a suite larger than Omotola's entire Charleston apartment. "The wedding is in 3 days. I suggest you decide which woman you want to be, the one who loves my son or the one who's smart enough not to." She left without another word. Omotola stood in, the doorway, Ji-hai's warning ringing in her ears. Through massive windows, Seoul's skyline glittered, beautiful, foreign, overwhelming. Her phone buzzed. "Intak, you okay?" Before she could respond, another text. "My mother is testing you. Don't let her win." Then, "I can feel you thinking from 3 floors away." What did she say? Omatola's lips curved despite everything. The man was impossible. She asked if I'm stupid enough to love you. The response came immediately. And? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. 3 days until she married a man who'd threatened to take her baby. 3 days until she bound herself to an obsession she didn't understand. The door opened behind her. Omotola spun, her heart jumping into her throat. Intak stood in the doorway, his jacket gone, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, revealing those Korean characters on his neck. His eyes were dark, intense, burning with something that made her stomach flip. "That meeting was fast," she managed. "I told my brother to wait." Intak stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a decisive click. "You didn't answer my question." He moved toward her with that predatory grace, and suddenly the massive suite felt suffocatingly small. "What question?" Her voice came out breathier than intended. "Are you stupid enough to love me?" He stopped close enough that she could feel his body heat, could smell that dark cologne that haunted her dreams. His hand came up to cup her face, tilting her chin up. "Because my mother's right about one thing. I don't do anything halfway." "Intak. 3 days, Omotola." His thumb traced her bottom lip, and heat pooled low in her belly despite her confusion, her fear, everything. 3 days until you're legally mine, but you've been mine since that night in Seoul, and we both know it. His other hand slid to her lower back, pulling her closer, as close as her belly allowed. "So answer the question. Are you falling for me? Because if you are..." His forehead touched hers. "I need to know. I need to know if I'm destroying you or saving you." Her breath caught. Because the truth was more complicated than survive or love. The truth was she was terrified of both. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know what this is. I just know." Her hands fisted in his shirt. "I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting..." His mouth crashed into hers, swallowing whatever she'd been about to confess. The kiss was desperate, claiming 6 months of obsession poured into one devastating moment. His hand tightened in her hair, while the other splayed possessively across her lower back, and she melted into him, opening for him, her body betraying every rational thought. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. 3 days, he repeated roughly against her lips. "Then there's no more confusion, no more questions. You'll be mine in every way that matters." He released her slowly, his eyes promising things that made her knees weak, then walked to the door. "Intak..." He paused, looking back. "Your mother thinks you'll destroy me." His smile was dark, dangerous, and absolutely certain. "Only if you let me. And something tells me you're stronger than she thinks." Then he was gone, leaving her flushed and aching and more confused than ever. 3 days until the wedding. 3 days to decide if she was brave enough or stupid enough to find out what happened when obsession turned to love. And as Omotola sank onto the massive bed, her lips still burning from his kiss, she realized Intak's mother had asked the wrong question. It wasn't whether she was stupid enough to love him. It was whether she was strong enough to survive being loved by him. The wedding dress hung in Omotola's suite like a ghost. Traditional white hanbok with modern structural boning, hand-embroidered with silver thread that caught the morning light. Beautiful. Suffocating. 2 days had passed since Intak's kiss. 2 days of stylists and planners and G-High's carefully orchestrated introductions to Seoul society. 2 days of learning she was marrying into a world where every smile hid calculation. Intak had been frustratingly absent, pulled into emergency meetings his brother claimed couldn't wait. But his presence lingered. Fresh peach juice delivered each morning, her grandmother's armchair positioned by the window, texts at odd hours. "Missing you one more day." "My mother tried to change your dress. I told her no." "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about how you taste." That last one at 3 a.m. kept her awake until dawn. Now, staring at the dress that would make her Yoon Omotola in less than 24 hours, her chest tightened with something between anticipation and terror. A knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, expecting another stylist. The door opened to reveal a man in his early 30s. Same sharp features as In-tak, but colder, more controlled. His suit was immaculate, his expression unreadable. "Miss Davis, I'm Yoon Jae-sung, In-tak's brother." He stepped inside uninvited. "We haven't been properly introduced." Something about his tone set off alarm bells. "Your mother mentioned you." "I'm sure she did." Jae-sung moved to the windows with calculated casualness. "She has opinions about everything, especially about American women who suddenly appear pregnant." Omotola's spine stiffened. "Say what you came to say." "Direct, I like that." Jae-sung turned, his smile sharp. "My brother is distracted, making reckless decisions, starting conflicts with rival families over you. Love makes men weak, Miss Davis. Weak men don't survive in our world." "Then talk to In-tak, not me." "I did. He threatened to kill me if I suggested you leave." Jae-sung pulled an envelope from his jacket. "So I'm asking you instead, walk away, take this money, disappear. Give your child a normal life, far from Seoul's underworld." Omotola stared at the envelope. "In-tak would hunt me down." "Not if it was your choice, if you left willingly." Jae-sung set the envelope on the dresser. "You have until midnight. After that, you're committed to whatever hell my brother's obsession creates." The door closed behind him. Omotola stared at the envelope, her heart racing. Freedom, safety, the chance to raise her child away from Mafia wars and a man who'd admitted he'd consume her. Her phone buzzed. "In-tak, final meeting running late, missing you. Tomorrow can't come fast enough." Then, "Jae-sung just left the estate. If he came to see you, ignore whatever he said." Her fingers trembled. "How did you know?" "I have cameras everywhere." A pause. "What did he offer you?" She could lie, but something about In-tak made dishonesty feel impossible. Money, freedom, an exit. The response took longer. "And? I'm still here." 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Finally. Why? Because somewhere between Charleston and Seoul, between threats and kisses, she'd stopped wanting to escape. "Because I think I'm stupid enough to love you after all." The phone rang immediately. "Say it again." In-tak's voice was rough, desperate. "Say it so I know I didn't imagine it." "I don't know if it's love yet, but I want to find out. I want to stay. I'm coming home right now." "No, finish your meeting. I'll be here." "Omotola, I'm not going anywhere, In-tak. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever." His sharp inhale carried through the phone. "You have no idea what you just agreed to." "Then you have a lifetime to show me." Silence stretched between them, heavy with promise. "Tomorrow," In-tak finally said, emotion roughening his voice. "Tomorrow you become mine, and I promise you'll never regret choosing me." "I better not, because if I do, I know where you sleep." His laugh was dark, delighted. "There's my fighter. Get some rest. Tomorrow I claim you in front of everyone who matters." He hung up. Omotola picked up the envelope without opening it and dropped it in the trash. She'd made her choice. A sound at the door made her turn. In-tak stood in the doorway, his jacket gone, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, breathing hard like he'd run the entire way. His eyes were wild, burning with something that stole her breath. "You said you'd finish the meeting," she managed. "I lied." He moved toward her with predatory intensity. "You just told me you love me. You think I could sit through another second of negotiations?" He reached her in 3 strides, his hands framing her face, tilting her head back. "Say it again, to my face this time." Her voice caught. "I'm falling for you. I don't know if it's smart or insane, but I can't stop it." Something fierce and possessive blazed in his eyes. "It's both. We're both insane." His thumb traced her bottom lip, and heat pooled low in her belly. "But I don't care. I stopped caring about smart the moment I saw you in Seoul." His forehead touched hers, his breath hot against her lips. "You chose me, over freedom, over safety, over everything." "I chose us," she whispered. Us, he repeated, tasting the word. His hand slid down her neck, her shoulders settling possessively on her waist. I like that. Us against my family. Us against Soul. Us against everyone who thinks this won't work. Intak. His mouth crashed into hers, swallowing whatever she'd been about to say. The kiss was desperate, claiming relief and hunger, and 6 months of obsession poured into one devastating moment. His hands tightened on her waist, pulling her as close as her belly allowed, and she melted into him, her fingers threading into his hair. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Tomorrow, he said roughly against her lips, you wear that dress. You say those vows, and then you're mine in every way that matters. His hand slid to her belly, splaying possessively. Both of you. Possessive much? Always. His smile was dark, dangerous, absolutely certain. Get used to it. Because once we're married, I'm never letting you out of my sight again. He kissed her once more, softer this time, almost reverent, then stepped back. Sleep. Tomorrow's a long day and you'll need your strength. For what? His eyes promised things that made her knees weak. For everything that comes after. Then he was gone, leaving her flushed and aching and more certain than ever. Tomorrow she married her obsession. Tomorrow she stepped into darkness with a man who'd burn the world to keep her. And God help them both. She couldn't wait. The ceremony should have been beautiful. Cherry blossoms lined the estate's garden pavilion, their petals drifting like snow in the afternoon breeze. Traditional musicians played softly while 300 guests, Soul's elite, politicians, business magnates, watched Omatola walk down an aisle lined with white silk. She wore the hanbok that had hung in her suite like a promise, her pregnant belly impossible to hide. Let them stare. Let them whisper. She was about to become Yun Omatola, and their opinions meant nothing. Intak waited at the altar in traditional black hanbok, his eyes dark and burning with possession so naked it made her breath catch. The Korean characters on his neck stood out starkly against his collar, immovable heart. She reached him, and his hand closed around hers, warm, steady, absolutely certain. The officiant began speaking in Korean, his words flowing over her. She'd practiced her vows phonetically, had spent hours ensuring she wouldn't embarrass herself. But now, with Intak's thumb stroking circles against her palm, the words felt less foreign and more like a bridge between worlds. Intak spoke his vows, his eyes never leaving hers, and even without understanding every word, she felt the weight of them, the promise, the claiming, the absolute certainty. Her turn. The Korean words felt thick on her tongue, but she pushed through. Nanen dangsinil sarang habnida. A scream cut through the ceremony. Omatola's head whipped toward the sound. Guests scattered as 3 black SUVs crashed through the ornamental gates. Armed men poured out, weapons raised. Intak's hand tightened on hers with bruising force. Get down! Gunfire erupted. The world exploded into chaos. Guests dove for cover. Intak's security returned fire, and Intak moved faster than she'd ever seen, his body becoming a shield between her and the attackers. Run, he commanded, his voice cold and lethal. East Garden, safe room. I'm not leaving. You're carrying my child. His hand pressed against her belly, urgent. Run, now. More gunfire. A bullet shattered the pavilion's column inches from her head. Jae-sung appeared from the chaos, blood streaming from his eye. This way. He grabbed Omatola's arm, pulling her toward the gardens while Intak provided cover. They'd barely made it into the garden maze when Jae-sung's grip shifted from protective to restraining. He pressed something cold against her spine. A gun. I'm sorry, Jae-sung said, almost meaning it. But my brother chose you over everything. I gave you a chance to leave. You should have taken it. Ice flooded Omatola's veins. The attack. This was you. A rival family wanted Intak vulnerable. Jae-sung's voice remained calm. When the smoke clears, you'll be gone. Tragic casualty. Intak will be devastated but focused. The organization survives. He'll kill you. Maybe, but he'll be alive. That's what matters. They emerged into a clearing where more armed men waited. Not Intak's. different organization. One stepped forward, his smile cold. The pregnant American. Park will pay well for Intok's weakness. But here's what these men didn't understand. Omotola Davis hadn't survived a controlling ex, crossed continents alone, or chosen a mafia boss over freedom just to become a victim now. "You made a mistake," Omotola said, her voice steady. She thought of her mother, who'd fought cancer with fury until the end. Her grandmother, who'd survived Jim Crow with dignity intact. The baby growing inside her, a bridge between worlds. "You want to know what Intact taught me?" The man's smile widened. "What's that?" "That love doesn't make you weak." Her hand tightened on her belly. "It makes you fucking terrifying." She drove her elbow back into Jae-sung's ribs, exactly where Intak had shown her during their self-defense lessons. The gun discharged into the ground as Jae-sung stumbled. Omotola ran. Pregnant, in a wedding dress, through a garden maze. She ran like her life depended on it, because it did. She could hear them behind her, shouting in Korean. But she'd walked these gardens every morning, had memorized the paths while calming pre-wedding nerves. Left at the fountain, right at the cherry tree. Strong hands caught her, and she screamed before a familiar voice cut through her panic. "It's me!" Intak spun her around, his hands frantically checking for injuries. Blood streaked his face, his wedding handbok torn, his eyes wild with fear. "Are you hurt? The baby? We're okay. But Jae-sung, he's working with Park's family. He had a gun." Intak's expression went absolutely murderous. "Don't!" Omotola clutched his shirt. "Don't you dare leave me again! Don't get yourself killed on our wedding day!" Something in his expression softened. He cupped her face, his thumb wiping away tears she hadn't realized she'd shed. "I'm not going anywhere without you." His hand slid to her belly, protective. "Both of you. You're everything. You understand? Everything." He pulled out his phone, rapid-fire Korean. Within seconds, his real security materialized. "Take her to the panic room," Intak commanded. "No one gets through. Intak..." He kissed her, hard and desperate, tasting like smoke and fear. "I'm coming back, I promise. But first..." His voice went cold, lethal. "I'm handling my brother." His fingers threaded through her hair one last time, tilting her face up. "When I get back, we're finishing those vows. Nothing interrupts us again. Not my family, not rivals, nothing. You better come back to me. Always." His thumb traced her lips, and despite the chaos, despite everything, heat flickered between them. "I didn't fight this hard to claim you just to die before I get to enjoy being your husband." Then he was gone, disappearing into the maze with lethal purpose. Omotola let his security guide her deeper into the estate. The panic room was exactly what it sounded like. Reinforced steel, surveillance monitors, enough supplies for a siege. She watched the screens as Intak's men systematically eliminated the attackers. Watched as Intak himself moved through the gardens like death personified, his movements precise and brutal. This was the man she'd married, not just the obsessive lover who brought her peach juice and remembered her grandmother's chair, but this, the dangerous, lethal force who'd burn the world to protect what was his. On screen, Intak cornered Jae-sung in the clearing. She couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw Jae-sung drop to his knees, saw Intak's gun raise, then lower. Intak spoke, short, sharp, and Jae-sung's shoulders slumped in what looked like defeat or relief. Intak gestured, and his men hauled Jae-sung away. Not dead. Exiled, maybe. Imprisoned, but alive. Because Intak had chosen mercy when he could have chosen vengeance. The door to the panic room opened 30 minutes later. Intak stood there, blood-streaked and exhausted but whole. His eyes found hers immediately, and the raw relief in them made her throat tight. "It's over," he said simply. Omotola crossed to him in 3 steps, her hands framing his face, checking for injuries. "Your brother?" "Alive. Barely. He'll wish he was dead by the time I'm done with him, but..." Intak's hand covered hers. "I didn't kill him. For you. Because you make me want to be better than the monster everyone expects." She kissed him then, desperate and grateful and still terrified. When they broke apart, Intak's smile was dark and absolutely certain. "We have unfinished business, Mrs. Yoon. We're not married yet. The ceremony was legally binding the moment we both said our vows, attack or not." His hand splayed possessively across her belly. "You're mine now. Officially, legally, irrevocably mine." "Possessive much?" "Always." He pulled her closer, his lips brushing her ear. "And now that everyone who matters knows exactly what happens when they threaten what's mine, we can finally have our wedding night." Heat flooded through her despite the chaos, despite everything. "Take me home," she whispered. Intak's smile turned wicked. "With pleasure, wife." And as he led her out of the panic room past the wreckage of their interrupted ceremony, Omotola realized something profound. She'd survived her wedding day, survived betrayal and gunfire and a world that wanted her gone. Now she just had to survive being thoroughly, completely, devastatingly loved by the man who'd chosen her over everything. The penthouse suite Intak had prepared for their wedding night was a study in contrasts. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, traditional Korean art on the walls, and a bed large enough to get lost in. Candles flickered despite the chaos they'd left behind. "Someone was confident," Omotola said, taking in the rose petals scattered across silk sheets. "Hopeful." Intak closed the door behind them, engaging multiple locks. His ruined wedding handbag was stained with blood, none of it his, but his eyes were clear, focused entirely on her. "I've been imagining this moment since Charleston?" He moved toward her slowly, giving her time to stop him. But Omotola didn't want to stop him. She'd survived gunfire and betrayal while 7 months pregnant. She'd earned this. "Help me with this," she said, gesturing to the elaborate handbook. "I have no idea how to get out of it." Intak's smile turned predatory. "With pleasure, wife." His fingers found the first tie at her shoulder, working with surprising gentleness. Each loosened knot revealed more skin, and his eyes tracked every inch like he was memorizing her. When the outer layer finally fell away, his breath caught. "Beautiful," he murmured, his hand settling possessively on her pregnant belly. "So fucking beautiful carrying my child." Heat flooded through her. "You're still dressed. Impatient? We've been interrupted twice. I'm not risking a third time." Intak laughed and stripped off his ruined handbag with efficient movements. The Korean characters on his neck continued down his left shoulder and arm in intricate brushstrokes. Other scars marked his torso, knife wounds, bullet grazes, evidence of a violent life she was now part of. She traced one scar across his ribs. "Does it hurt?" "Not anymore." He caught her hand, pressing it flat against his racing heart. "This is what hurts. Wanting you, needing you, knowing I almost lost you today." His other hand cupped her face. "You're everything, Omotola. My obsession, my weakness, my strength." "Then show me," she whispered. Intak's kiss was different this time. Slower, deeper, tasting like promise instead of desperation. His hands mapped her body with reverent possession, learning every curve, every response. When he lifted her, carefully, mindful of her belly, and carried her to the bed, she felt cherished and claimed all at once. The silk sheets were cool against her overheated skin. Intak settled beside her, his hand never leaving her belly, his eyes asking permission. "Are you sure?" His voice had gone rough. "The baby, the doctor said it's safe." Omotola pulled him closer. "And I want this, want you, all of you." What happened next was heat and possession, and 6 months of obsession finally unleashed. Intak worshipped her pregnant body with hands and mouth, murmuring Korean and English against her skin, promises and praise and filthy things that made her arch into him. When he finally claimed her, moving with exquisite care, the world narrowed to just them. Husband and wife, obsession and surrender, two people choosing each other over everything. After, wrapped in silk sheets with Intak's hand protective on her belly and soul glittering beyond the windows, Omotola felt something shift, like a puzzle piece sliding into place. "What are you thinking?" Intak murmured against her temple. that I chose right, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. His arm tightened around her. Even after today? Especially after today. She turned to face him. Because you came for me. Because you showed mercy when you could have chosen violence. Only for you. His thumb stroked her stomach. You make me want to be more than what I was raised to be. The baby kicked against their joined hands. Intak's expression softened with wonder. Strong. Like the mother. They stayed like that for hours, talking, making plans, existing in a bubble where nothing could touch them. 3 weeks later, at 2 a.m., Omotola woke to cramping. Intak. She shook his shoulder. Something's wrong. He was awake instantly. What's wrong? Pressure, cramping. But the baby's not due for 6 weeks. Her water broke. Intak moved with terrifying efficiency. Phone out, rapid Korean, already dressing. Stay calm, we're leaving now. It's too early, Omotola said, fear clawing at her throat. I know. He helped her up, his hands steady even though his eyes were wild. But you're strong. The baby's strong. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Intak held her hand the entire way, his thumb stroking her knuckles while coordinating doctors and security. Mr. Yoon. The obstetrician met them at emergency. We need to prep for C-section. The baby's heart rate is dropping. Save them both. Intak's voice cracked. Whatever it takes. They wheeled Omotola away, and she saw the fear, raw and absolute in his eyes, as the doors closed between them. But here's what happened in that operating room, what Intak would later confess with devastation in his voice. The doctors gave him a choice. What happened next was bright lights and medical voices and overwhelming pressure. Then a cry. High, angry, absolutely perfect. It's a girl, someone said. Small but breathing. Omotola glimpsed a tiny, furious face before exhaustion pulled her under. She woke to afternoon sunlight and Intak sitting beside her bed, holding a bundle wrapped in pink. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face haggard, but his expression when he looked at that baby... He looked at her like she'd hung the moon. Hey, Omotola croaked. Relief flooded his features. You're awake. Thank God. He stood carefully, bringing the baby closer. Meet your daughter. 4 pounds, 1 ounce. She'll need NICU observation, but she's perfect. Omotola's arms ached to hold her. Is she okay? She's a fighter, like her mother. Intak settled beside her on the bed. The doctors gave me a choice during the surgery. Save you or save her if it came to that. His voice cracked. I told them to save you, without hesitation. Tears spilled down Omotola's cheeks. Intak, I know what that makes me. Selfish. But I can't exist in a world without you in it. He looked at her with absolute devastation. I would have chosen you, every time, always you. You didn't have to choose, she whispered. We're both here. But I would have. The confession hung between them. Does that make me a monster? It makes you mine. She reached for his hand. It makes you the man who loves me enough to destroy himself. And I love you for it. All of it. Even the terrifying parts. His eyes closed, and she saw a tear slip down his cheek. I love you. God, Omotola, I love you so much, it scares me. Good. She smiled through her own tears, because I'm terrified too, but we're doing this anyway. Their daughter made a small sound, and Intak's attention shifted immediately. What should we name her? He asked softly. Jihai, wisdom and ocean, a bridge between your world and mine. Intak's smile was devastating. Perfect. He leaned over carefully, kissing her forehead. My family, my entire world in this room. 2 months later, Jihai came home from the NICU, tiny but fierce, her lungs strong enough to wake the entire penthouse at 3 a.m. Omotola found Intak in the nursery, shirtless and exhausted, holding their daughter against his tattooed chest while she screamed her displeasure at the world. I've negotiated with warlords, he said without looking up. Survived assassination attempts. This tiny human terrifies me more than anything. Omatola laughed, joining him. Together they figured out feeding positions and diaper changes and the 1,000 small ways their daughter demanded they reshape their world around her. And watching Intak, Seoul's most dangerous man, sing Korean lullabies to their half-asleep daughter at dawn, Omatola realized something profound. She'd survived Charleston, survived Seoul, survived her wedding turning into a war zone and premature labor, and a world that wanted her gone. But survival wasn't the victory. The victory was this: standing in a Seoul penthouse at sunrise, watching her obsessive husband cradle their daughter with hands that had killed men, building a family from obsession and choosing love even when it was terrifying. She'd married a monster who'd become a man for her, and he'd married a woman strong enough to survive being loved by him. Their daughter yawned, tiny fist curling around Intak's finger, and Omatola felt her heart expand impossibly. This was their happily ever after, messy, complicated, born from threats and obsession, and two people brave enough to choose each other anyway, and she wouldn't change a single terrifying, beautiful moment. If you believe love is worth fighting for, even when it's dangerous, obsessive, and completely insane, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me, would you have taken Jae-sung's envelope and run, or would you have stayed for Intak? And if you want more stories about possessive heroes who'd burn the world down for their women, subscribe, because Omatola and Intak's story might be over. But there are plenty more dangerous men in Seoul waiting to claim what's theirs.